I want to bring in two other people who know a lot about what the former president and his supporters are thinking tonight. Harry Litman is a former U.S. attorney and former deputy assistant attorney general. He's also the host of the Talking Feds podcast. And Bill Kristol is a political writer and commentator and the editor at large for the Bulwark. Welcome, gentlemen, to you both. Harry, I want to start with you on the legal front and that whole business about sinister intent. I did not expect to get the answer that I just got from Mick Mulvaney that maybe, possibly, anything's possible in Washington. That says a lot. I expected to hear absolutely not. I would not expect the president to have sinister intent. Do you think that this is going to be something extremely difficult to prove, however, because legally is different than, on the news?
Yeah, it really is. And it was real testimonial, wasn't it, from having been shoulder to shoulder with him that anything is possible. But with respect, he's misunderstood what's involved here. The obstruction charge, the intent there is to impede an investigation. So here's what basically happened. Possibly, as he posits, it was all done carelessly until a certain point when the head of the Justice Department's Intelligence Division goes down and they are assured, and thereafter a letter is sent saying we don't have anything else. And while we haven't seen the affidavit, we have good reason to think that thereafter a confidential informant told them, in fact, that was a lie. At that point, the obstruction charge comes into play, and it may be that he's keeping it because he wants to sell it or do something nefarious, and maybe that he just likes having it around. But when they lie and impede the investigation, that is the willfulness standard. And he is, in fact, it'll be pretty straightforward to show that. If they go against him, that's a much bigger question. Will they charge him? But I don't think it's a willfulness issue.
So, Bill, on the political side of this, today felt a little bit different. Some said the dam had broke. Everything was a sea change of opinion among the political right. I don't know that I felt that personally. I don't watch every single minute of every single channel. But I thought that interview with Mick Mulvaney was telling. There were a number of things that surprised me, especially when he said, I hope he's not the nominee for 2024. But to the extraordinary aspect of the investigation and the search and seizure action that Mulvaney pointed out, he said there better be sort of a body or a smoking gun. I wanted to ask you what you think politically a hell of a lot more than just, a few pieces of papers would actually be. Like, what bar will it need to be that was carried out of Mar-a-Lago in order for the dam to break and maybe everybody but his core supporters to actually feel the way the more left-wing channels feel?
I mean, first of all, actually, I think there has been erosion in Trump's status among Republican elites in particular. It's not clear that much among the Republican primary voters, and he still has a lot of clout, as we've seen in primary after primary, in terms of his candidates winning, and the other candidates who maybe weren't even his preferred ones, sounding as pro-Trump as possible, and certainly not getting in a fight with him. The one who's gotten in a fight with him, who's really taken him on, who's told the truth about January 6th is Liz Cheney, and she's probably going to lose tomorrow night. So Trump remains very powerful, and there have been many times before, and you and I have discussed this before, when people have said, oh, the dam's about to break, this is finally going to happen, and it didn't happen after January 6th. I give some credit to Mick Mulvaney, some credit, for being so disturbed by January 6th that he doesn't think maybe he could vote for Trump in a general election. But who else is saying that? Mick Mulvaney is not in elected office now. No one is saying that, basically, in the Senate or the House. Some of them are saying they prefer that he not be the candidate, the nominee, but they're not saying they wouldn't support him. They're not saying it's a disqualifier the way Liz Cheney says that. None of them is supporting Liz Cheney, incidentally. I don't notice Mick Mulvaney helping out with Liz Cheney campaign in Wyoming. So Trump's power remains great. On the investigation, this is a criminal investigation. I mean, people are being childish about it, in my opinion. What do we need to know? What should we see? Transparency? We will know. There will be an indictment or there won't be an indictment. There will be evidence or there won't be evidence. The affidavit will become public or won't, or there'll be a report as to what they'll have to explain why they haven't decided not to indict Trump or indicted other people. I mean, so let's let it play out. I don't think it's going to take that long, but it'll take a little while. And for the meantime, I think people are overreading it both ways. I don't think there was any big rallying to Trump, as I agree with you on this. I think the right wing sort of hoped this was going to be the overreach that helped Trump. I think most people think, gee, I don't know. You know, the FBI coming into your home after they've been in discussions and taking stuff, they did it politely, they did it appropriately, they did it legally, but they felt they had to do it. I think most people look at that, unless you're a hardcore Trump supporter.
I'll tell you something.
Maybe there's something there, you know?
It's interesting to look at some polling. I'll throw up a Politico poll if I can. This one, though, is from August 10th, and that's 2 days before Thursday night's big breaking story by our Brian Enton, where he said, yeah, there were classified documents of the highest nature, TSSCI. So all of the information that was, revealed when the warrant was unsealed, this hadn't happened yet, and this is the poll. The reason for the search, 49% believed that this was executed because evidence he'd committed a crime, and 39% said the motivation was to damage his political career. Again, before they even knew what was actually found on that evidence list. Harry Litman, to this point, and this has been litigated for days on the news, and everyone's getting it wrong. Let's just be clear. Constitutionally, the president has the right to declassify things. I get it. There should be a process, but he constitutionally has that right. Will that play into the legal case, despite the moral aspects of, waving a magic wand and saying all my boxes are free and clear? Constitutionally, he has the right. And America can change that later. But for now, will that factor into that case?
Only insofar as DOJ thinks that's a little bit of a hill to climb beyond a reasonable doubt. The idea that he did it and there's a standing order is preposterous. When there are orders like that, they go through many channels in government, and any instance of declassification, by the way, everyone in government has to understand that it's been declassified. People weigh in. There's no chance in the real world it happened, but could the department say, here's one reason why we think we may have a tougher hill to climb? Potentially. There are other things like that. Just very quickly, though, on the documents and the justification and, was this all political? By definition, we are talking about documents that could do exceptionally grave damage to the national security. When I was in government, the idea of even looking at them not inside a secure facility was out of the question. So there's almost no choice. If they think that they're lying to them and not otherwise going to give them, they do eventually have to go in. That's separate from charging them with a crime.
Harry, I always come back to, and as your litigator, you'll know this, I always come back to 12 reasonable minds need to agree. And so that's a whole other kettle of fish, and we'll have that conversation perhaps at some point and perhaps not. Harry Litman and Bill Kristol, thank you both. It's just a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you both. Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.